A very good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much, Amity University, for giving me this opportunity to present our vision, our startup. What is the first word that comes to our mind whenever we think of tech or revolution, right? It's always artificial intelligence, isn't it? It's, of course, it's AI, microchips, robotics, space travel. This is what we think of. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pratik Rastogi, the co founder and CEO of Better Nutrition. And today, my talk is going to be about this next tech revolution, which is into food, it is into agriculture, and is being built right here by the farmers of Uttar Pradesh and the people of Lucknow. And when I was working with these organizations, we were trying to identify that what are some of the most gripping challenges that the agriculture scientists are trying to change, that they're trying to fight, and what is the future of food, what is the future of agri-tech, what does it look like. And at that point of time, what we realized that there is one gripping problem that all of these scientists and all of us as people are facing. And this problem is that over the last 70 years, the average nutritional value that our staples produce. We all eat wheat, rice, millets. I'm sure all of you ate that for your lunch and dinner yesterday. All of that food, it fills our stomach, right? But it also gives us nutrients. That food has a particular zinc content, it has an iron content, a calcium content, a vitamin content, and a protein content. That's what helps us to nourish our bodies. But that value is now declining year on year. From the pre-1960s era to now in 2020s, that value is down by nearly 70%. Isn't that a big number, 70%? And the scientists try to explore that what is really happening. And that takes us back to nearly around 10,000 years ago when humanity first invented agriculture. That essentially is the first tech revolution that was created by humanity, and that is the genesis of our entire human civilization. Long before we had even electricity, we had industries, we had microchips, we even had electricity. Long before that, even when we invented the wheel, long before that, humans started using agriculture technology. That was 10,000 years ago. And the genesis of that technology was lying into seeds. Seeds became the first form of essential programming, like how we program softwares today. We programmed agriculture using seeds. So 10,000 years ago, an average, wheat as a plant, wheat has spikes, it has kernels. An average wheat kernel would have just around 3 or 4 grains into it. Today, that same wheat kernel has an average of 60 to 70 grains into it. That kind of agriculture productivity has been achieved over 10,000 years. And the methodology is simple. Humans, our farmers, our ancient farmers have acted as scientists. They have used the selection methodology. They would pick up those seeds, which would give them, identify those plants which would give them more yield, pick those seeds up, and then try and use those seeds for further farming into the next years. So that continuous process of improvement and selection helped us to increase these yields over the years. So indeed, what was humanity's first technology? It was always farming, it was always seeds. But despite those agricultural advancements, in the years of 1960s and the years preceding that, India had a severe problem. India had a severe shortage of food grains in our country. Are you aware that India was referred to as the begging bowl of the world in the years 1960s by certain American economists? Why was that? Because India had severe dependency on import of these food grains. We did not have food sufficiency in our country. We had to import food grains from our US counterparts at that point of time, and we were totally dependent upon them. At that point of time, the scientists of our country collaborated with global scientists and brought in the Green Revolution. In the Green Revolution, scientists wanted to increase the overall productivity and yields of the grains. And for that, we imported a concept called high yielding varieties of seeds. From the indigenous varieties that we would eat in our country, we switched towards these high yielding varieties of seeds and continuously began to increase the average yield or the volume of the crops that we produce in our country. From being a country that was called as the begging bowl of the world, today we are proudly a country that is called the breadbasket of the world. India today in the 2020s is the second largest agri-producer of grains globally. We are exporters of grains to the world now. We produce more than 300 million metric tons of grains per year, and this is achieved by our farmers. So, over the last 60, 70 years since Green Revolution happened, we have successfully solved the problem of food insufficiency, of food crisis. We have solved that. We all eat food regularly. It's very easy for us to eat food now. Zomato delivers it over 15 minutes. You can get into your home. Blinkit is delivering that food within like less than 10 minutes now. Most of the country now, gets to eat good food. We fill our stomachs. Despite having made these advancements in agriculture over the last 70 years, India today is still facing massive problems in food, into food quality. Today, while India is a food sufficient nation, we are second largest agriculture producer, we are still one of the worst countries when it comes to what is the kind of nutrition that our food gives us. You'll be surprised to know that we are beyond the 100th mark today in the global hunger index, despite being the second largest producer. That's a big contrast. We were ranked almost 111th just a couple of years back out of over 127 countries on the global hunger index. The kind of nutrients that our food gives, and you all of us eat, and in the kind of nutrients like zinc, iron, protein, calcium, vitamin levels that we can get through our food, they're severely low. And over the last 70 years, while there were food advancements, the government did try to make certain advancements within food quality itself. So there was a concept of artificial food fortification that was brought in. I'm sure that you all heard of iodized salt. Iodized salt is something that over the last 30 years the government mandated, and we have used it in our homes to eat iodine through our salt and solve for iodine deficiency. In the 1970s, goiter used to be a big problem for our people, but now we all eat iodized salt. We don't have the deficiency anymore. Very similarly, the government then tries to create food fortification within all our staples. So staples like your atta, rice, your edible oils, milk. Now they are being supplemented and fortified with micronutrients like iron, zinc, calcium, provitamin, folic acid, vitamin B12, etc. We are all deficient in it. Most of us are not conscious about it. We are not doing something about it, and government then mandates this for the people to eat, to provide these nutrients through that food so that we can all eat it on an everyday basis. But how many of us have even heard of fortified foods, and how many of us have really consumed all of these foods on an everyday basis? All of these, all of these innovations that have been brought about, they've always worked upon the post-harvest, process. Once the food has been made, how can we supplement? Once you've eaten the food and you're not sufficient into nutrition, how can we give you something extra into your body? And all of those industries have thrived in a big way. But in this entire process over the last 70 years, we still left out our farming community. The farming community was never able to be that entrepreneur or become that person who would create this nutrition into their farmlands, into the food that they create. But now that is all about to change. So this is a graph of how food production or agriculture innovations have happened in our country. From the era of 1960s to 2025, we were into the first green revolution, which was about yield enhancement. It was about volumetric production. But now, as we move past the 2020s, India's numbers and needs is that of nutrition through food, and the nutritional crisis is the largest looming crisis in our country today. And the scientists, in order to solve for this, have created something called biofortification. Biofortification is very simply the science of producing nutrients within agriculture. So this whole idea is that can we produce, these supplements that we buy now? Some of these supplements are very expensive. For those of you who use it, I'm sure it's quite a hole into your pocket. Some of these supplements that are expensive, can we create those supplements in a natural way through agriculture produce to food itself? Can we not have just supplements which give us multiple side effects, which are isolated supplements, which don't have the rest of the machinery in it for our body to consume it better? Instead of that, can we just make food once again powerful enough so that food itself can meet our requirements of nutrition? That is the idea which biofortification explores. It has been discovered and invented by the agriculture scientists across the world. And certain private organizations like ourselves are now picking up on this technology, bringing it to the farmers of our country, our state, producing such nutrient dense produce and crops, and bringing it out to the consumers ahead. So this is what our company does, where we take these biofortified seeds that have the capacity to absorb more nutrition from the ground, and we switch them from the existing high yielding varieties of seeds that's nearly more than 99% of the farming that we do today in our country. So instead of high yielding varieties just focusing on volume, we switch them towards nutrition dense crops, and we train the farmers, we give them these seeds so that they can produce these crops into the farmlands. Other than that, there is one more important bottleneck that needs to be solved, which is the soil quality. Due to last 70 years of intensive agriculture, I'm sure all of you are aware of this, that our soil has lost the typical nutritional value it used to have. Soil measured before the 1960s and now measured, it has significantly reduced in the average mineral value that it has. All your mineral contents that we get in our body comes through the soil. How many of you have heard this saying that हम मिट्टी से बन के आते हैं? It's a very literal saying, because literally the movement of the nutrients in our body is from the soil through the food, and then it comes into our body. But if the soil doesn't have those nutrients, it doesn't reach the food and it doesn't reach our body again. So these two factors are currently being worked upon by the top agriculture scientists, which is revival of soils to increase nutrients in it once again, and the change of seeds from just high yielding volumetric focus towards nutrition focus, so that the seed has the capability to absorb more nutrition from the ground, and ultimately you get a powerful entity called the biofortified grain, which is super dense into nutrients. If eaten regularly by all of us, we can meet our everyday requirement of various minerals just through your daily atta, chawal, dal itself. So isn't this something powerful? And we make the farmers the backbone of India, are true entrepreneurs, and we make them a beneficiary of this process, and not just the industries, the large industries. Currently they are the ones who are bringing you those products and you're winning. But we can make the farmers the beneficiary of this process once again. There's a saying that मिट्टी में से हम सोना उगा सकते हैं, right? This is that. This is what it looks like. I'm sure you've heard the Prime Minister talk about doubling of the farmer's income. How do you do that? Doubling of the farmer's income can be done when farmer really begins to produce something which is in line with the demand that we all have with our needs. And today our biggest need is that of nutrition. We are all paying a heavy premium for it on an everyday basis. What if the farmer could produce it into their farmlands? Then that we kickstart a whole new revolution within the country, a revolution which is about nutrition dense farming. And various industries can become a part of this process, and this stakeholder impact across the entire value chain. The farmers benefit from this, the startups and entrepreneurs who get this done, they benefit from this, the consumers benefit from this, at a large scale the country benefits from this. Have you heard of the concept of hidden hunger? Hidden hunger simply means that despite us eating our food while filling our bellies and mitigating our hunger, we are still left with something. That's a hidden hunger. Because the body's need is not just about food or it's about calories. The body's need is also about nutrients, and that gets left hidden. We are not able to see it. We fill our stomach, but the body still cannot eat can get the nutrients out of the food. This hidden hunger alone has an estimated 3% GDP loss for us as a country every year. And the estimation of that in value is nearly around more than $12 billion because it has so much productivity loss. I would like to tell you that I am a resident of Lucknow. I was born here. I studied here. I went to study at SRCC Ahmedabad, but then post my consulting stint, I came back to Lucknow and I started working with the farmers on this agri-tech revolution itself. It's so promising that our concept itself went on to win various national level awards, challenges, and even we went on to the Shark Tank season for this year. So if some of you are looking at problem solving, there's a great opportunity which directly links the future of food, the future of health, and it starts right from the place that we are born into places like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, which are all farming backbone of the country and can be the future health zones of the world itself. So there's something for you. As consumers, for many years we have been looking at staples, and staples have been advertised to us from the viewpoint of how tasty the roti is, how soft the roti is, how much aroma is there into your rice. Isn't that how all of us pick out the staples that we consume today? Instead of looking at the staples from any of those physical parameters or just looking at food from the viewpoint of fulfilling our belly, you can look at these staples from the viewpoint of the nutritional value that it is providing you. I'm not asking you to look at supplementation alone, which is an artificial form of giving nutrients to your body. But I'm asking you to explore natural sources of such nutrients coming through food itself. Okay, so all of us can do that as as consumers, as educators, and as policy reformers of the future. There's a lot that we can do. We can be creating case studies around this within agriculture, within educational institutes, teaching the students on the benefits of technology like this. And I think everybody over here has a certain role to play in it. So do read up more about biofortification, about naturally nutrition-dense farming, and next time that you are picking out your staples, do see them from the viewpoint of nutrition. That's it. That's my submission. I hope I've been able to give you a new perspective today. Once again, thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm at University of Lucknow. Thank you so much.